I did not grow up in a Christian home per se. So actually, I grew up in a family of Christians that are the reason why people hate Christians. And because of that, my parents were both anti-Christian. And so they raised us to not hate Christians, but certainly not trust them or like them very much. And because the way my family was, we were basically the black sheep of the family. So I remember vividly when I was like 6 years old, my cousin being like, I said, oh, let's go out and play or something. And she was like, my mom said we're not allowed to play with you. And being like, what? Because, when you're a kid, you don't understand. So yeah, the kind of Christians that tell gay people that they're going to hell and tell everyone that they're going to hell, and no grace, no mercy, no nothing like that. And so I grew up very anti-Christian, and I, in my late 20s, I became a drug addict and struggled with that for some time and had run-ins with the law and the whole thing. And in getting sober, I started seeking a relationship with God. And I didn't know what that God looked like. I just knew that I was willing to believe that there was a God who loved me and wanted better for me. So that started my journey. And I think, like a lot of people, I was drawn to like Buddhism and stuff like that. This idea of not wanting and, just being okay, and the universe and everything. And that was a great starting point for me. And then as I grew in sobriety, I started getting introduced to a lot of Christian writers like Emmett Fox and John Lennox and people like that, who were very deep philosophical thinkers, and I guess apologists, Christian apologists. And that was really, a lot of that was really ringing true to me, but I had so much prejudice and so much bias on my heart that I only allowed it to filter in a certain amount. And then I met my husband, who is Christian, and we got in a lot of arguments about Christianity and Jesus. And I'm a really smart person, but I only ever really listened to what other people said about Christianity and Jesus. So a lot of my arguments were very shallow and based on just what you hear people say. And then we got invited to an event by this organization called Catalyst. And it was in Austin, Texas, and it was an event called Explore God. And it was for anybody to come talk about whatever religion they were, the nature of God. And long story short, the way that I was loved by those people, in addition to having this experience with my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was like, these are not the people that I grew up with. And this is not the story that you hear on television and all of the biases and prejudices that I'd held all these years. These are not the same people. So what is this? And I actually started going to that church on Sundays by myself. I was lying to my husband, then boyfriend, about what I was doing on Sunday mornings. I did always have some really good excuse to not be available or hang out Saturday night and or have to get up early. And because if it didn't resonate with me and I ended up not believing in it or whatever, I didn't want him to be disappointed. And so I was going to Northwest Fellowship for a couple of months, and one Sunday, Pastor Trey did the sinner's prayer at the end of the service, and I just was sitting there and I was like, I've given my life to drugs and alcohol. I've given my life to people, to chasing ideology. I've made college and education my higher power, fill in the blank. And here is this opportunity to give my life, even if Jesus is not real. The idea, in that moment, I went, you know what, even if this is not real, and none of this is true, why not give my life to the idea that someone and something out there loves me so much that they died for me? And that experience of unconditional love was something I had never had before. And it just, I just think about it. I'm just crying right now thinking about it. I had never experienced that before. And I was like, oh my God, this is what people are talking about. This is what it is. That God loved me so much that he gave his life for me. And that in that, I get to do the same for other people. And how beautiful is that? And how much better would the world be if everyone was willing to give each other that much grace and that much dignity? And I said, all right, fine, whatever, fine, I'll try it. Like, I've done way worse and way dumber things in my life. And, you know, that was probably, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago now. And my life is completely different. I'm married to that man. I finally got to see that I am unique and special and created in God's image, put here with certain gifts and talents to help create the world that he wants for us, that I get to participate in God's plan for us here on earth, and that he gave me these gifts and talents to use for his purposes. And every time I step further into that purpose, my life gets better and I feel more at peace, and I don't care as much about what people think about me, and I don't need approval from random people who don't actually care about me in the end, and I get this freedom that I didn't even realize was possible.